Peace and blessings be on you. So as promised in the last video, we shall be addressing the first question of the book in this video, which, if you remember, was what is the logical proof of the existence of God? Now, this concept of God is present in all the major religions of the world. The names may differ, and some of the details also differ. For example, some religions believe God to be all-powerful without any faults, whereas some other religions or denominations believe that God does not have supreme power and has faults. And then some religions believe that God still plays an active role in our lives, whereas others believe that God just once created us and no longer plays any role in our lives, and so on. There are other differences as well. So what I've done for the purposes of this question is I have taken two attributes which I believe that God has, and then I have logically proven that there does exist a God which has those two attributes at least. Of course, I believe in a lot of other attributes of God as well, but in this question, I am addressing only the two attributes, which I will now show you on my slide. Okay. So the first attribute that I'm going to defend is that God is someone who created this universe and all the things that we see in it. And the second is that God is someone who has always been there. Okay, so the way I should be proving the existence of God with these two attributes is by considering the following three logical possibilities. Now, logically, one of these possibilities and only one of these possibilities has to be true. The other two have to be false. So the possibilities are, number one, there is no creator and everything somehow got created by itself. Number two, there is a creator of everything that we see, but this creator was created at some point of time by another creator, which, if you remember my second point of defense, that goes against the second point that I have listed here, because if there was a creator of the creator, then of course the original creator was not someone who was always there. But I am going to prove that creator was actually always there. And so the third possibility, which is actually my claim that I'm trying to prove, is that there does exist a creator who is always there. So this is exactly my claim. Now, the way I'm going to go about this is I will refute the first two possibilities that are listed here. And since, if you think about it logically, only one of these three can be true, and actually one of them has to be true. So if the first two are refuted, then that automatically forces the truth of the third one by principles of logic. So that's what I'm saying here that I'm going to refute the first two, and that will force the third possibility to be true. So let's see how we go about refuting the first possibility. Let's say we are walking along and suddenly we happen to see a pair of shoes on the footpath on which we are walking. And let's say it's a beautiful pair of shoes of the same size, left and right, and well polished, neatly arranged. Now, what would you think when you see such a pair of shoes? Would you say that it just got created by itself, or was there someone who actually made that pair and then placed it on the footpath? Mm, I think you would agree, even the atheists would agree that there's no way that pair of shoes just got created by itself from raw leather and just got placed there on the footpath by itself. There has to be a creator, and there has to be someone who placed the pair on the footpath. Now, let's analyze the thought process that probably we went through either consciously or subconsciously in reaching the conclusion that this pair of shoes was created by someone and wasn't there by itself. So it's probably these 2 points that we were thinking about. One is the complexity. There is a certain complexity to the design of a shoe, a well-made shoe, and we somehow know that something that complex um, could not have been created by itself. But that's not all. There's another thing that goes along with it, and that's the finiteness or the powerlessness of the pair of shoes. That despite having a very complex and intricate design, it's not something which gives us the impression that it has a lot of control over things, a lot of power. And it's also a very finite thing. It's just right there, limited in space. And so usually it's these two points in one form and the other that we were thinking about when we reached the conclusion that the pair of shoes had to be made by someone. Now, let's compare that to a child. Now, we will agree that a child is much more complex than shoes, and the child also has a finiteness about him or her. Child, or in fact, any human being, does not have the power to control this world. And even, let's say, there is that rare autocrat, a very powerful one who does have some power. It's very limited. It has a finiteness about it, a finiteness of time. At some point, we all have to die. In fact, in that regards, in fact, a pair of shoes may even be more powerful uh, in that it may have a longer life than the most powerful human being. So it's debatable that who eventually is more powerful, whether it's a pair of shoes or a child. The point is that both of them have a finiteness and a powerlessness about them. But as far as the complexity is concerned, there can be no debate that a child is much more complex in design than a pair of shoes. Therefore, if the pair of shoes has to have a creator, as we all agree, then why wouldn't something that is much more complex and um, it's debatable whether it's more powerful or less powerful, more finite or less finite. The second point is kind of the same. And if in the first point, child dominates in the complexity, and keeping both these points in mind, if a shoe has a creator, then the child has to have a creator. That now uh, actually refutes the first possibility. The first possibility was that there is no creator of anything and everything just got created by itself. So the first one is out. Now let's go about refuting the second possibility. Then second possibility, let's assume that the creator also had a creator. Well, the only reason why we could have reached that conclusion is because of the, let's go back to the attribute slides. Um, no, not the attribute slides, but the slide over here. So if someone reasons that, okay, if complexity calls for a creator, then by the complexity argument, the creator must also have a creator because the creator is obviously more complex than a child. But the point to keep in mind is that it's not just the complexity argument, it's the finiteness argument that also goes with it. And the two of them together actually prove that there has to be a creator of the things that we see. Now, in case of the creator, there is no evidence of finiteness or helplessness, the kind of evidence that we have in case of a child or in case of a pair of shoes. So let's keep this one aside because that one is kind of uncertain, not known. But if we go um, to just, so it means that if we have reached this conclusion that a creator must have a creator, it's only because of the complexity argument, not because of the finiteness argument. Therefore, by that complexity argument, if the creator must have a creator, then that creator must have a creator, and then that creator must have a creator, and this is a never-stopping process. And actually, if you think about it, that makes no logical sense. Actually, that can be ruled out, which then forces us to the conclusion that there cannot be infinitely many creators upon creators. Therefore, the only possibility left for us is that there was just that one creator. That creator does not need to be created by anyone else. And obviously, it's that second point which results in that argument. Um, we have, because of that, we have to believe that there was no, that the creator is actually not finite and not helpless. Because if the creator was finite and helpless, then since the complexity is already there, so then that would call for a creator. So indirectly, we've also shown along the way that the creator is actually infinite, and by infinite, we can assume infinitely powerful in this case, because infinite doesn't necessarily mean infinite body, because the creator may not have an actual physical presence, maybe just be something completely spiritual. But whatever the case may be, the point is that um, this indicates that the creator is infinite, and it's also proven that by method of exclusion that it cannot be a created one because the infinite chain of creators is illogical. Therefore, we have actually refuted both the first two possibilities, and that forces the third possibility, which was our claim, to be true. Now, I'll mention here that although we have logically proven the existence of God, but logical proof of existence of God doesn't give us the satisfaction of heart that we crave for. And it also does not really help people in shaping their lives accordingly. So usually, even after such a logical proof, people may say, okay, I'm convinced logically, but yet they'll go on living the same life, doing the same wrong things that they were doing before. Um, Therefore, there has to be something more than logic in this regard. And that is that Creator himself would say and would tell us that, yes, I am there. And if we hear a voice like that, then that is actually the kind of proof which I would say is a proof by experience, because that is something beyond logic. That's the kind of proof that actually gives us real satisfaction of the heart, and also it helps us shape our lives in a meaningful way. It helps us get rid of our faults, and it helps us do all the right things. Now, that is actually another topic, because in this book, I'm just focusing on the logical aspect of things. But that's a very interesting topic in its own right, the one I mentioned in the last few minutes of finding the proof of existence of creator through experience. Now, here I'll just mention that just because the experience proof is actually a more satisfying proof than the logical proof, that doesn't mean that there could be anything illogical in a true belief or a true religion. Logic can never be against um, the truth. Logic may sometimes stop at a certain point and may ask for something else to continue the proof, but a true spiritual fact can never be illogical. So, in other words, logic, spirituality, religion, rationality, these things can never oppose each other. They always go hand in hand. And this is something which will be addressed more in a later question. For now, I think we have done justice to what the title of the first question said. And I hope to see you for the second question in my next video. God bless you.